So today I want to talk about all the different factors that actually contributed to me becoming a profitable trader. And I know I'm not like the most profitable trader out there, but I'm definitely making money month over month. So with the things that actually led to this, right? So I feel like a lot of people think there's like one big breakthrough moment, but in actuality, that's not true. There's going to be all these little mini breakthroughs that add up over time. Because I feel like the average person, right? They're just going to think like, in the movies where some guy starts going crazy trying to figure out some problem, right? He starts putting all these sheets of like loose leaf over all over his walls. He's got writing all over his walls, and he's got all these things connecting it. And then there's one moment in all these movies, I feel like, where he's like, wait a second, like y equals mx plus b, or he finds out some formula and he starts getting a Sharpie and he's drawing these lines and he's like, oh my God, this all makes sense now, right? And he has this like whole revelation. I feel like people think it's going to happen to you in trading, but trading's totally different. Like I said before, there's going to be all these small mini breakthroughs that add up over time. So I'm going to go through every little mini breakthrough I had and pretty much just my journey to becoming a profitable trader. So I'd say the first mini breakthrough that I had was when I really started exercising discipline in my daily life. So I started working out, I started doing long distance runs. And I remember I actually started this with trading in mind. I remember there was one trader who I really respected. Honestly, I don't remember his name off the top of my head. I think it might have been Paladin, but basically there was some trader where he was talking about the connection between pushing yourself through hard situations in like the gym, long distance run, and he was comparing it to trading. And honestly, I saw the connection in my head. I was like, you know what? Like if I go to the gym every day, I keep putting in that work. Like a couple months in, I might not see crazy results, but then a year in, if I keep working at this thing, eventually I'm going to have to see results. And I thought it's the same thing with trading. So I'm going to prove to myself that I can stay consistent with something. I can push through something that's uncomfortable, because like long distance runs, going to the gym, you're putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation. It's not like you're going to like wake up and be like, oh yeah, I would love to go for like a long distance run right now, or I would love to go to the gym right now, especially when you're not in that habit. But I got myself into that habit. I got myself comfortable being in uncomfortable situations, right? And I actually ended up running my first half marathon. I'm pretty sure, I want to say it was like halfway through 2023. And I'd say like 6 months after that is when my trading started really leveling up. But that really gave me some confidence in my trading, because I was like, you know what? Like I said in my mind, I'm going to go out and run a half marathon, 13 miles. I ran for like 2.5 hours almost, right? Like the average person can't do that. And that was one of the first things where I really put in my mind, like I'm different than these other people, right? Like not like I have this whole ego, like I'm arrogant, but it's like I have the capability to push myself past my limits where other people can't do this. And that's one of the reasons why people suck at trading, right? They get put in an uncomfortable situation where they're losing money, right? Their money's on the line, they're being emotional, right? It's an uncomfortable situation. You got to be comfortable being in those uncomfortable situations. So honestly, getting in the gym, it helped me think clearer. It helped me be confident that I can push myself through hard times and just all these things that I mentioned. So honestly, if you're an unprofitable trader, I highly recommend getting to the gym. So I'd say the second breakthrough I had was when I found inverse fair value gaps. That's the strategy I trade to this day. And I remember when I found it, I really knew I was onto something. So I first learned about them from a guy called Dodgy's DD, Ryan Wilson. Shout out to him. He honestly changed my life. I'm forever in his debt. But he has all this free content on YouTube. I never even paid him a penny. I was watching all of his videos on YouTube about inversions, and I started trading inversions. So I first started trading inversion fair value gaps in the start of 2024. And I started getting some payouts around then, although I was strategy hopping, don't get me wrong. But I feel like inversion fair value gaps, one of the things about them is they really had like a concept I believed in, right? Because these ICT concepts, I feel like a lot of these things, I'm like, what are these people talking about? But I did know from when I used to trade, even before I found ICT concepts, I used to look at what I used to just call them gaps, right? Like I never heard of a fair value gap. All I knew was these gaps in the market. And I remember the person I was learning from before, which was, his name was Doyle Exchange, right? He trades supply and demand. I personally can't trade supply and demand, but one of the key takeaways I got from him was he always used to say, look at the gaps in the market. And I remember one time he even made a video where he was saying, don't even try to like learn how to trade. Just go back in time and just look at gaps and see how they're respected and just stuff like that, right? So I had already been looking at these gaps, right? I just found a new name for them, and I thought, you know what? It's almost like the opposite. Instead of looking for these gaps to get respected, once they get disrespected, I can use that as like a confirmation. And again, too, like I feel like in terms of PD arrays, right? Like in terms of all the different ICT concepts, like you can say a fair value gap we should bounce off of, but when we inverse a fair value gap, not only are we disrespecting like that PD rate that should be respected, so it's a confirmation. But now you're putting in an inverse, which kind of like, I know an inverse really isn't a PD rate that should be respected too much, but honestly, there's a lot of times where we come back down and retest the inverse fair value gap and bounce back up. So not only am I getting an area that we could bounce off of, but I'm also getting a confirmation and a change in like order flow, right? Where I feel like no other PD array actually gives you some form of confirmation. But honestly, when I first found inversions, I still didn't 100% know what I was doing. I was just kind of winging it and still learning my thing. But I'll get into the next breakthrough that I had. So I'd say the next breakthrough that I had was when I got my first big payouts. So for my funded futures, I got two payouts that were around $4,000 each. So that was around $8,000 in payouts in 1 month. That was in August of 2024. And at that point, once I received those payouts, honestly, in my mind, I was sitting there thinking like, wow, I'm really mastering this trading stuff. I'm really like a profitable trader. I was on top of the world, honestly. And my birthday was coming up shortly after. So I actually ended up flying to Miami to celebrate. So my trip honestly didn't go as planned, didn't go the best, but I came back home, right? And then one of my breakthroughs at that point though was I feel like even though I'd made all that money, I feel like deep down at that point, I still knew that I really didn't know how to trade, right? Because I feel like at that point in time, I feel like the summer of 2024, honestly, I feel like you could just take any inverse fair value gap just blindly and it would just work. I feel like price action was just so clean and inverses just worked so well during that time. And I was trading like around a 1-to-1. So like it's not too unprobable to get a payout from that, right? And I remember the way I got those accounts too was my funded futures long time ago. They were doing this sale where all the accounts were $50 each. It didn't matter if you were buying a 50K, 100K, or 150K. I'll never forget this sale. I was spamming 150Ks all day long. There was no, I think, was there an activation fee? I honestly can't remember if there was an activation fee or not. There might not have been an activation fee, if I remember correctly. But essentially, I bought so many evals during that sale. I was full porting them, and then I got a bunch of funded accounts, right? You can only trade 3 at a time, but I'm pretty sure I got one set, blew those, got another set, got lucky on them, and then I ended up requesting payout on that, right? So I got that huge payout. Oh, and honestly, full transparency too, like with those futures firms, a lot of times you need to request 50% of your balance, but for that payout in specific, I low-key farmed the days where they let me, once I had the account for 90 days, and if I took a trade once per week, they actually let you withdraw the whole account just at a 90% profit split. So I don't even think, to my recollection, I think I might have taken a payout on one of the accounts and not the others. But essentially, I closed down the accounts, right? Because in requesting that payout, I requested the full balance. So it's not like I was up 8K requesting 4K, if that makes sense. But essentially, though, like that big streak, right? It showed me that I actually wasn't as good as a trader as I initially thought I was, right? I got these 2 4K payouts. I thought I was a great trader. But when it came down to it, I was like, wait, I got to do this again. Because I feel like there's this one feeling that I feel like traders have where it's like, once I get this big payout, I'm set. But at the end of the day, though, I feel like trading is one of those things where, I mean, not I feel like it is, where it's performance based, right? So I could kill the markets like last week. I could go crazy. I could be hitting every trade could be a win. But this week, I still have to perform in order to make money. Because just because I made money last week, it means nothing this week. Your actions from last week mean nothing today, essentially, right? So it was like the next month, and I was just struggling to get payouts. So I'd say my next breakthrough is when I joined a Discord group. And up until this time, I had been telling people, don't join a Discord group. You can't strategy hop. You can't get analysis paralysis. Trading is like a one-on-one game. Just stay in your own lane. But honestly, I just kept looking on social media, and I looked at all these other traders that traded inverse fair value gaps. And I never understood, like I would look at their trade recaps, like they'd post on their story what trades they took. And I'm like, why did you pick like this 3-minute inverse fair value gap in specific? And they just always be picking the right ones. And I know like on social media, you can fake profits, but from the people I was looking at, I really trusted them. And I still to this day believe they were actually taking the trades they were saying they were taking because I know it's possible now. But at the time, I never understood it. I'm like, what kind of discretion is coming in here? Like, I don't get what factors you looked at to pick that inverse over the one I chose. And like yours worked out and mine didn't, if you know what I mean. So I figured I got to pick someone else that trades inversions because I can't strategy hop, right? Like I'm not going to go to an entirely new strategy and try to start learning it from scratch. But I want to pick someone that trades similar to me. So first, I did join someone called Aidenomics. I was in I was in his Discord for a bit. Me personally, I feel like his trading style didn't mesh that well with me. And then from there, I moved on to PB trading. So PB trading isn't even open unless you want to join like the 1%, which is like their mentorship. But I was in their Discord for a hot minute, honestly. And at first, I was low key like signal botting a little bit, where I had one account where I would just kind of copy their trades. But the thing that really helped me was just watching in live time. Like he would say, "Oh yeah, I'm passing up on this setup because of this, this, this," or "I'm taking this setup because of this, this, this." And then at the end of the day, he'd always break down the whole session, and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, well I took this trade, I didn't take this trade," like, and this is basically just a whole recap of every day and his whole thought process throughout the whole day. And honestly, like, I'm not saying this is like everyone learns differently, right? Like it might not work out the same for you, but me personally, I feel like my learning style is kind of like a see-do learning style, right? So like I want to fully understand it first, and then I want to see you do it. So I want to see it actually in action, and then once I've witnessed someone else do it, I can kind of do it myself. And I feel like a lot of traders think that's true to cope with, like, yeah, I need to copy someone else and watch and get signals, and from there I'll learn. That's not the whole end of the story, right? I mean, I do know there's a lot of people in PB that got stuck as what like a lot of people call like signal bots, right? Where because you have the opportunity to copy this trader who you know is making money, you can become very dependent on his signals, and you can say, why would I trade on my own when I can watch this guy and just copy him and make money? It's free money. Like it's honestly, it's kind of not like, if when you think about it, it's understandable to think like that. But at the end of the day, you want to learn trading as a skill for yourself. Yeah, but I was in that group for, let's say, like 6 months, let's say, maybe a little less. But honestly, in that period of time is when I saw the most amount of growth in my trading, because they had all these educational videos. I was watching these educational videos day in and day out. And then I got to trade with them live. And then on top of that, I would see the recap, so I would know exactly everything that happened throughout the day. And then lastly, since I was paying them to be in that group, I feel like one thing people really underestimate is when you actually put some like monetary value on something, right? Like if, let's say, for example, whoever's watching this, right? If we're having a conversation and we're talking about me mentoring you one-on-one, I think there's going to be a higher probability of you being a successful student if you pay me. Now, hear me out here. I feel like when I start giving you a service for free, even if it's subconscious, you're going to think this service has lower value and you're not going to take it as serious. But when you put your own hard-earned money on the line, you're like, oh, I invested X amount of money in this course. I have to take it seriously. It's kind of like the same thing in school, right? Like when you're paying for college, you're not going to slack off in your classes. You're paying a lot of money to be there. Where like in high school, you're just kind of going there and you're not losing money, if you know what I mean. But yeah, so I basically had something on the line. And also at that point, I mean, I was just running out of time. But honestly, that Discord group, it taught me so much. And I really feel like this right here was, I know not one breakthrough was like the breakthrough, but seriously, this was like the closest to the breakthrough if you want to like, if you want me to name one. So this last breakthrough moment actually happened pretty recently. So once PB shut down, which honestly, I can't remember off the top of my head. I want to say it was like August 1st. I think they stopped. That sounds about right to me. But so essentially they shut down Discord and I was forced to trade on my own, which I knew eventually I had to do. But honestly, I feel like I was never ready to like pull the plug at myself, if that makes sense. And I remember Blake used to talk about, like Blake's the guy from PB that pretty much ran most of it. So he was talking about like, you guys are going to thank me. This is in the best interest of everyone, if you know what I mean. Because like he was saying like, you guys aren't learning pretty much, which I mean, I think I was, but I do admit there were a lot of people in there that were just there for signals. I feel like to a point, they almost kind of promoted that like signal bot culture. But so me trading live on my own is when honestly I really got some extreme confidence in myself, because in that time where I was in the group, even if I did take a trade, quote unquote, like on my own, I still had Blake up on my right screen where he was talking about his bias, so I had his confirmation. So I feel like there'd be certain trades where I'd be like, oh yeah, he's right, there's equal highs at my stop, or there's this going against me, and I feel like it'd almost be like I had my trading wheels on. But once I actually continued to keep winning outside that group, I was like, you know what, like this strategy, there's something to it. All the things he taught me, they're kind of coming together, and maybe I don't need Blake. And then don't get me wrong, I mean, there were definitely still little things where I feel like I wasn't used to trading on my own, so I kind of stumble and fall here and there. But honestly, over time, I've never been this confident in my trading. And then the last thing was later, I actually decided I wanted to start live streaming when I trade. So at this point, I'm already pretty confident in my trading, but at this point, I started getting really confident in my trading. So I'd say I first started trading live, I want to say mid-September. So I think I had been out of PB for a month and a half when I first started live trading. And then I announced that I was going to live trade Monday through Friday every single week in the beginning of October, to my recollection. So I've been live trading Monday through Friday for almost 2 months now. But the reason that this has helped me become such a better trader, live trading, right? So I can list multiple reasons. But the first one is, so when you're live trading, it forces me to speak out loud about everything I'm doing. So when I'm narrating my trades, like, have you ever gone through something and you're reading something out loud and you're like, wait a second, that doesn't sound right to me? I feel like the same thing will happen when I'm live trading. Like, I'll be talking about, oh, I could target this area, but there's this going against me. And I'll say, like, oh, wait, there's this going against me. Like, why am I taking this trade? Like, I would never take a trade like that, like in hindsight, right? So, one, narrating my trades out loud. Two, I know there's people watching me. So I feel like it almost helps me follow my plan and like my rules and everything a little bit. It's easier for me to do that because one, it's going to be embarrassing. Like, let's say if I start revenge trading, I start taking stupid trades outside my plan. I feel like I'm going to be in front of people watching me. Like, there's my chat watching me, and they're going to be like, what's wrong with this guy? Like, why is he trading like this? And it's just embarrassing for me. And also, I do know that, like I was talking about that signal bot culture. So let's say if there's any quote unquote signal bots in my chat, I don't want them to lose money, right? Because I do know there's a certain group of people where, while I do not encourage this whatsoever, I do acknowledge there's a certain group of people that's going to copy my trades just blindly because they're like, you know what? I trust this guy. Whatever he's doing, I want to do. So I have to be more careful with the trades I actually place on when I'm live streaming. And one other thing I didn't mention too is I have the recordings of every trading session. So let's say like I close my position early and I'm like, what was I thinking? I can go back and I can rewind that point in time. I can watch my face to see how emotional I was getting. I can see how the candles were forming in real time. I can say what I said out loud to give myself the reasoning for why I would close the position early and stuff like that. So it's almost like forced journaling. And that's honestly the last point of like why live trading has helped me so much is, like I just said before, it's forced journaling. So not only do I have this recording, but it's basically my trade journal, right? Because like I might as well post like a trade recap on what my trade is. Because on my Instagram story, I try to post the trade I take every single day on my Instagram story. And what this does is it gives me accountability in a public journal. Because before I was live streaming, right? I feel like I always talked about how I need to journal, journaling so important. And I was even paying for a trade journaling software, which is TradeZella. But the thing was, at the end of the day, I was just kind of lazy some days and I wouldn't actually record my trades into this trade journal. And eventually, like, it would just come a time where I'm like, oh, I'm not entering there. It's whatever, I'll forget about it. And also, these prop firms have a little bit of built-in journaling too. So it's like, yeah. But yeah, I mean, so pretty much the live streaming though, it's forced accountability, people watching me, I narrate out loud, I'm forcing myself to journal. I can go back and watch all my live trading recordings. So honestly, I mean, if you're looking to have a takeaway from this, like, yeah, you might not want to live trade. Trust me, live trading is not for everyone, but you could still record your trades, right? Start recording all of your trades, all your executions, start narrating stuff out loud. And honestly, I think you might see some benefit from it. And also, I know this is a funny thing to add in, but if you trade with Apex, I remember a long time ago, Apex was talking about to actually prove that you took your trades, they wanted a recording of you entering that trade and explaining it. So let's say if you trade Apex and they start pulling some crazy stuff, you could be prepared. And we don't know what the future of prop firms is either. I mean, let's say Top Step, My Fund and Futures, they start asking for videos of stuff like that. You could give them evidence that like you took your own trades. Because they also could claim that you're like in account management, copy trading, like you're taking the exact same trades as another user, which pretty much is against their terms and conditions. But the only way for you to actually fight that would be you to have a recording saying, "Oh yeah, well this is my recording of me entering and exiting all these positions live time." But yeah. So now I feel like it should be pretty clear that I didn't just have one breakthrough moment. It was like a series of all these little small moments. And eventually one day I just kind of look back and I'm like, wow, I'm getting pretty consistent. I can look back at my trade journal. I can look back at my back testing results and the results just speak for themselves essentially. So my final takeaway message, if you're trying to become a profitable trader, there's going to be so many different variables that are actually going to factor into this. And it's different for everyone. What I say works for me might not necessarily work for you, but I can give you a good structure and guidelines of the type of things that works for me. So one, try to find something where you're pushing yourself outside your comfort zone and you need to experience like some form of success outside of trading. Trading can't be your life as a whole. And then like, let's say you add something in where you're going to the gym in the morning, you push yourself outside your comfort zone, you get some like happy endorphins and you say, you know what? I'm the type of guy that pushes through hard times and I actually achieve the results in time, right? Then from there, you want to focus on refining your strategy because I feel like there's so many traders out there that are like, oh my God, I'm losing money. And I ask them like how profitable their strategy is and they don't know. Like, how are you trading a strategy that you don't even have an idea of the win rate, the average risk to reward? You have no statistics, right? So you need to get your statistics, be constantly refining. And then from there, once you are executing, I say this all the time, but like pretty much just be journaling, follow your journal. And honestly, if you need to, like I talked about before, you could start recording your trades, watching how you execute these trades, how you manage them, and just review them, right? So pretty much push yourself outside your comfort zone, outside the charts, find a profitable strategy, and then from there, just refine it. And also, don't give up, right? Like I said before, this whole mindset, it's like running a marathon, right? Trading is honestly like a marathon. You're going to go through very hard times, but eventually, if you keep going, you're going to get to that finish line. And if you're looking for a prop firm to trade with, my favorite prop firm is Alpha Futures. I'm going to put the link down below as well as my discount code, which is code TIMB272. It's going to get you 10% off all evaluations or whatever the best current discount is. So I highly recommend checking out Alpha Futures. I'm also going to link my free Discord in that pinned comment. So definitely join the free Discord. Tag me at any time. I'd be happy to talk to any of you guys. But if you watch this video all the way through, I really appreciate it. I'd also really appreciate if you give me a like, put a comment down below, and also subscribe. And I also just hope you have a great day.